Jaye Marsh, and they've been in residence all week doing artist in residence program at Chalmers House here in the performance space, which we're currently in. This is a relatively new program. It's coming up on just a year, and the idea of this program is basically just to give artists free space and time to do things that they want to do, try out new things, and Jaye and Liz have really taken that to heart, and really excited to show some exploration that they've done, and I think it's pretty cool. And I don't think I need to talk much more than that, but we'll hear some new music, some old music, some works in progress, and yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. I would like to start with a piece that is in progress. This is a workshop version. It's the working title for many, for a few months was Dorian, but the piece is going to be called Ponder. And it's great to work with Jaye and to work out some cool effects. So we'd like to play it first, and then I'll just talk a little bit about that afterwards. So this is based on a tune that I improvised about almost 29 years ago, and it just came. I always improv'd. I was in a group at the University of Western Ontario that did improv, and we would like spend like Saturday nights just improving and like having like a little bit of structure, but then we would just kind of go a little bit diverge from that. So this is one of the tunes that I played, and I kind of put that aside for many years because when I was going through my university studies, you're being trained to be a performer, to realize the notes that composers are doing. And it never occurred to me that I could go that path because I was in this very structured program. So I would kind of do my improvs, and in fact when I would like play other pieces by other composers, I would always like add my little touch, my little kind of outburst, as I would say.
A flourish.
So it was something that was always in me, and then in about 2016 I went to Finland and I worked on vocal improvisation, and then it turned into instrumental performance, and then I had the spark, but I still didn't have the time. And over the last 2-3 years, I have been making time to do this, kind of working very intuitively. I work very intuitively. I actually improvise, and I see, what sounds I like, and then I put it to paper, and then I refine it from there, and I put it into a metric structure. So I'm very excited to be here at the Canadian Music Centre because I have not only the time, but I have a space, and this wonderful space with great acoustics to have this work. And I'm grateful to Jaye for being with this piece, and to David. So in fact, what we'll do next is I'm very excited about this because I've worked with David for many years, but I've never actually, collaborated him as a performer. We will do that on the second improvisation that we'll do, but this is a part that he wrote. So this is he composed the track, and we are doing an improv. So we've done it like I think twice already, so we don't know what's going to happen.
It was a track intended to provoke improvisation.
Yes. And what's the working title, David?
Let's see. I think it's called A Calm Late Summer Afternoon.
Like here, like today, September 12th, 2024. Okay. All right.
Did you like the bigger reverb?
Yeah,
Yeah.
50. I'm doing a little bit more reverb.
Yeah,
For sure.
Okay. So I'm going to start. Like you can actually hear the reverb through my microphone.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. So I'm just going to press this button, and hopefully it will play.
That was so fun.
That was
worked
fun.
out so well.
That was very different than what we did in rehearsal.
Every time it's different, right? And that's why we've had why we've been trying to capture everything that we do, like, especially when you're improvising. You want to have the cameras and the audio rolling all the time.
Yeah.
You capture really great ideas.
That's one of the things I wanted to do this week is capture ideas.
Yeah, because you don't remember it. You're just like, oh, I want to write that down so I can do it again because it was great. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm in another world. I don't think about it. I just play, right?
Yeah.
So, because improvising is fairly recent for me. As a friend of mine sort of said, well, just try improv. You know, like my orchestral flute player in me is like, you know, and the same thing. And it was never really shared with me that, you know, that I could go that way. Same trajectory. I don't know why that was the message I picked up on. So many of my colleagues said nuts to that and did their own thing. I don't know, maybe it's because of the instrument I play. It's just like flute, there's so many. Just, you know, focus on the one track. But we're here now. This is
so cool. Working on electronics, which is also something that I had a barrier for many years.
Oh my gosh.
Like in fact, you know, if I can be silly, I had an Instapot back in 2015, and I was so scared of technology that it's just an Instapot. I had it under my my table for about 2 months, and I would have, when I discovered how good it was, how great it was, I'm like, oh, I do this all the time, and I did in the pandemic. I kept it every day. But it's like that with technology because you have this kind of barrier, and once you get past the barrier, it is so much fun. I call it the toy box.
Yeah.
And I'm just playing with things. And one of the amazing things about this week is to see Jaye with her toys, and she uses different toys than I do. I had to use Ableton and Logic, and then I have also used a delay pedal, and she has like the all-in-one machine.
Yeah, so I've got an RC600 that I've been diving into. Start off on the Marsh looper board, which I really liked, but it's really heavy. But you can really customize this to do anything you want. You send your sends everywhere, all different kinds of effects, and you can set your buttons so that to work for you, and then you remember those. It's almost too much, but like there's enough here for me to play with, and I've got like a little vocal logo going through, which is a Canadian product, to help control my sound of the microphone, and like it's just really, and it's just a way that I can play my own stuff and capture ideas and play against my own ideas, and especially the looping, but also save those things. Like I've got like some field recordings, waves, and you know, it just captures everything. It's sort of like not quite a one-man band, but almost. But it has rhythmic stuff in there that I haven't explored yet.
That's cool. One of the things I use for my tools for improvising, because I'm very intuitive. Like I do use a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard occasionally, but I have kind of like migrated to using my voice because to me the viola is like the voice. So I have an app called Doubler 2, and I have a little dynamic microphone, and I just like hum into it, and then it
triggers all kinds of other
it turns into MIDI, or I can trigger things, which I haven't explored that.
That's so fun.
And so I do vocalization, and a lot of times I'll just like put my recording on, I'll record myself, and I'm like, oh, I like that idea, and then I will try to convert it to MIDI, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, you know.
But it's fun to explore, because we're still coming at it from a not quite just a classical viewpoint, where like we're made up of all the music that we've ever heard and we like, but still it's just that sensibilities of where can we go, and exploration and soundscapes that we're not afraid to try.
Exactly.
Experimental. Are you doing premonition?
I'm doing premonition. So this is a piece that I wrote in June of 24, just about 3 months ago, and I wrote it for viola and light electronics. It's in 3 parts, and it's tracks that I recorded back in 2022 and 2023, and actually some of it has electric violin, which I've actually put away, and it's kind of got a little bit of a harsh edge, but I liked the sound and I liked the harmonics, and then I'm interplaying that with classical viola, using techniques, which are more classical, but it's a lot of fun. So. And I'm going to, so one of the interesting challenges of this week is, technology is great, but sometimes it fails. So I've had issues with I brought my lovely Mac Mini, and it decided that it just wasn't ready to burden. It wasn't ready to be burdened, so it
got stage fright.
It got stage fright, so it's not here. So here's my trusty old MacBook Air, and it's stepped in, so it's like a sub. And but my MIDI pedal doesn't work with this, so I'm going to ask David to. Well, actually, I will press the button, so I will go over to the laptop and set it up. So I'm going to load up the file. Open the recent tab. Go ahead. Yes. And we go there. And
kinds of things, and other folks like us, when we were starting out trying to figure out like what microphones we were going to use and all that kind of thing. Like we're both using DPAs.
Yes. And
there was a recommendation from a flutist, Melissa Keeling, who wrote a book on electronics and whatever, and I even shared that with you.
Bought the book,
Yeah, it's fantastic. She sort of created a primer for flutists, but really it works for any instrumentalist. So I'm like, just to go from purely acoustic, which is what we're mostly used to basics, like you need this cable, this pedal, this microphone. Start with the basics, and she takes you up to full range, and it's such a fantastic resource. And I met her in Chicago a couple of years ago, and so thank goodness for her. But you have a different kind of DPA because yours is attached to your instrument, and then you have an electronic one, right? A lot of flute players, or some of my friends are using. They'll use DPAs, like the headset mics, which is what I'm using, or they'll just have like a set of microphones up front, and they can change instruments that way. But some of the music that I'm envisioning and I want to do, I want to be able to walk around, move around. So I actually want to be untethered. I don't like, because first of all I'm clumsy, so I'm bound to trip on something. But so that's why I went with the headset mics. Eventually I'll be wireless and I can walk around and I can talk to people and just put my flute down. I don't have to, I prefer to just pretend I'm still, maybe it's just because I'm still tethered to the idea of being acoustic. Yes. I like to not know that I'm microphone. Yes.
Exactly.
But I think the microphone, getting, like I've spent a lot of money on the DPAs, they're not cheap, but it sounds fantastic. Like just listening to right here, the sound that microphone is picking up is gorgeous.
And I've had it for 10 years.
And it's a fantastic, and like it's probably the top of the line, but for instrumentalists, like that's still part of our voice, and as acoustic players, we want a lot more control over our sound, right? So I think the microphone is really important. Hot tip.
So
what are we doing?
So we're gonna do some acoustic. So one of the things, because it's actually a kind of a mission that's important to me, is to go to the vault, go and find pieces by Canada Music Center associate composers and bring it, play them, because they should be played. And this is an incredible resource. In fact, in July of 2014, I came here just to go to the library, and I was here for about 4 hours, just like looking through score of viola solo pieces, and then that journey led me to meet David at about a month later online, and then we worked together on various pieces. We started with Favor, and working with a composer is so much fun. So we would like to kind of, as to showcase one of the composers, and we've been working for about a day. So
basically citing Robert Daigneault, 3 real studies for.
And this is fun. This is a fun piece.
A surprising number of flute and viola pieces in the library. So which is interesting.
So check it out.
So, This one and this one?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, it's kind of a little.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
There's just so much more in the library too.
Yes.
It's so great.
Cool.
A national resource.
All right. Okay, it's your turn. We want to see what you're doing.
Really?
Yes,
okay,
I do.
Okay. I have to plug back in.
I am going to go sit down.
The viewers at home would like to hear your voices a little more clearly.
Okay.
But if we bring up the board, it does bad things. So just
so leave our microphones on. Okay.
Or just speak louder.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's folks at home. Okay.
Probably
So I left my microphone on, took my delay off, so I think that'll be fine. So it's actually I'm working on hopefully my volume 2 of my Flute in the Wild project, which is commissioning composers to write new music for flute in a variety of combinations. And this one is going to be 2 flutes, solo flute, and possibly electronics if they want, or 2 flutes and percussion, 1 flute and percussion, whatever. So, but it's actually Liz over here who told me, why don't you write a piece? It's like, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, here we go. You can hear me now.
Yes.
I'm still getting used to the whole microphone thing. That's the
Me
thing,
too.
right?
Me
yeah,
too.
Exactly. So, so I'm experimenting, and that's what part of this residency is like. Not just this one, but I'm starting it. But I'm going to, apply to do my own set of time to explore writing a piece with intention. I've been improvising for a little while, and seem to be okay at it. You seem to like what I do, and it's fun. I'm really enjoying myself. There was something that terrified me really most of the time, but now I'm really, really enjoying the creative freedom that it's bringing. So this is the next step of writing intentionally. It's still going to largely use a lot of improv, or maybe more like in reaction to what the electronics give me. Just like when you're interacting in an improvisation with another instrumentalist, like you and I were just having this conversation. I like that idea of conversation. So conversing with whatever the pedal brings back at me, there's with reverb and delay. And if you really make them quite extreme, just at a basic level, it can be a fun conversation. I've had some interaction with other people who use these wild pedals that randomize what comes back, and those are really wacky because then it really feels like you're in a deep conversation that you can't predict what's coming next. And so the whole idea of gear it's a well of money to go down and just to explore. There's so many capabilities, but so I'm writing a piece with just the basics so that anybody, if they want to kind of use the same technology, so I'm talking to Liz over here, technology, they can maybe recreate kind of what I'm writing. So I'm thinking most of the things that I want for this Flute in the Wild project, I want to be accessible. I want all the music to be available to purchase. It's not just for me to play, it's for everybody. So I'm initiating these works, but the scores are available and I want everybody to play them. So in that vein, I'm exploring with pedals. So, okay, all right, so I'm going to put the reverb back on and put some delay. So the piece I'm writing has kind of 3 parts. I'm calling it 3 Coasts. And I'm thinking something, the opening bit, because I'm from Atlantic Canada, I'm from Nova Scotia, so the first one will be on piccolo and some playful stuff like that, maybe a bit of folk music, and then something in BC. I have a germ of an idea that I reacted to, and I felt the need to express it in music when I was seeing all the wildfires last year and the year before. So I just played into my flute, into my alto flute, and I think I'm going to start with that as a German idea for the middle one. And then the last one, this is the one I want to experiment with a little bit more. I'm calling it, this section is icy. So like because we're actually 3 coasts, not just 2. There's the north, which I've never seen, but I'm going to imagine. So I'm totally just experimenting here. So midway through there, I was trying to capture it by a loop, and my big boots pressed two of my buttons, and one of them was the mute button. These are the things that like you have to get used to. It's like I normally play my looper in ballet shoes and whatnot, right? So so you can tippy toe around because it's a bit of a tap dance and whatever. But these are the things we experiment with, right? So so I don't know, experimentation. We'll see how it goes.
It's lovely.
So thank you. So we were going to do another one of David's
and he's going to join.
Oh, that's right. David's going to play. Why don't you talk about that?
This is a piece I originally created for my synthesizer band, the Canadian Electronic Ensemble, the CEE, a group that's been in existence for over 50 years, still going strong. I devised a backing. It's a little bit more structured, a little bit more complex structure than the first piece, which was just kind of like a stream of floating ideas. This one has some complexity to it, but it's still open-ended. The idea is that live performers can add to that structure and build upon it. So that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yes. And you're playing too.
And I'm going to play too.
He's playing the synthesizer as well on his laptop, which is so awesome. Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm inspired by a violinist in Vermont who does this. Mary Rowell. Mary Rowell, yeah.
Okay, I guess you have to start the track.
Yes, I do. That is right. Okay, here we are. And I'm going to press enter. Okay. Nope, that's the wrong piece. Okay. Wrong piece. Let me load up the track. Nope, not that one.
We've heard that one already.
I think, oh, can I do it again? No, I'm fine. David tracks. I'm learning how to do Ableton, and I'm grateful to Katie Semro, who told me a tip that I didn't remember till this morning when I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, was in Ableton, because of the file management.
Talking to your mic.
Oh, I get talking to my mic. So I am extremely grateful to Katie Semro. She's like a mastermind with Ableton, like a wizard, you know. And basically, she gave really great advice, which I kind of forgot about till this morning at 6 a.m. And basically is when you are doing an Ableton project.
Sorry.
That's okay, that's kind of fun actually. It's like a little punchline.
Wait, my turn.
Little punchline, it's like, no comments from the peanut gallery. And she said, when you're collecting, when you're saving a document, you always collect and save all. So you're collecting all your media files. Because yesterday I was kind of playing hide and seek with those media files, and it took me a while. So I'm grateful for that. So I'm going to pull this track, and then we will do the next improv. All right. Register, please. Okay. Now are we ready?
We are ready.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
like that.
I love, by the way, I love score tour. So what I did is my C string, and I turned it down to an A string, and I love it. It has a great color because when you do a chord, I'll play the chord. It's like it just has that great resonance. So I like. So I'm gonna tune up.
Nice.
So now back to default viola. I'm just gonna retune because tuning is good. So we just wanted to say how grateful we are to Joseph Glazer and the Canadian Music Centre for giving us this opportunity to create, and the time and the space. It's just been for me it's been a very powerful experience, and I feel like the skills, like I yesterday I actually was feeling kind of overwhelmed by how many skills I was learning, but today has been a lot better, and I'm just so excited to take that knowledge and put it into my workflow, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with just having the space where we're uninterrupted, and also the support of having the technology, especially as acoustic instruments. We could easily use the room fruitfully just to improvise on our own, but having the support of the like the equipment that's here, we didn't have to bring all of this, just our little bits and pieces, the cables, and then an extra set of ears.
And we are incredibly grateful to Joseph as well for helping us with the technical setup and sound checks. We are unbelievably grateful. Thank you. Clap.
Yeah.
The fourth member of this week. So our last piece that we're going to play is by David Yeager. And what I love about David Yeager's music is his generosity. He writes music, he loves the viola, so I'm not going to talk about that today, but what I really like is when he writes music, he writes it so it can be shared among many people. So he doesn't write just for like one viola, he writes for all the violas in his life, and he has a lot of them. So, and he is really open to creating new work and to build on previous work, which is the next piece that we're going to play. And I'll let you talk about it, and I'll stop talking to my viola.
Well, I don't have a microphone.
Okay, do you want to talk to Mike? Here, I'll just do that.
This work began life actually as a cello piece,
Yeah.
Constable's Clouds. But other people in my life thought that they could bring more to the piece, and so the first step was I created for Liz a version for viola, and she said, "Well, I really hope it could have electronics with it." So there's an extra layer. And then, actually in the meantime, there's also an accordion version that I created with Joseph Petrich. But for this occasion, the open opportunity to create something additional was there. And so I asked Liz, I said, how about adding a flute part to Constable and the Spirit of the Clouds? So we did that, but it's with a twist, because I wrote half the piece for Jaye, and I was a little bit behind schedule. But she said, "Well, show it to us anyway," and so I did, and then we both, I think, simultaneously had the idea, what if we just improvise the second half?
Yeah.
So that's playing up to bar 101, and then we're going to improv. Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to put this back. It's good to be mic'd. All right, and I'm going to find the track. Cool. Left set. Oh, it's the set.
And I'm going to press center at the right moment.
Yes.
How did I get the score out?
Okay, ready for the set. Constable. I gotta set it up. Oops. Okay.
I have the score on my phone.
That's cool. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna put it here, and hopefully. So let's see. Return key. So I just gotta pull up the music. All right. Oops. Backwards. There we go. That's it. All right. Okay. Are you good? Okay. Are you good, David? Okay.
Come on in,
I'm
yeah,
free.
join us.
All right.
Let's have a little sit
Do you wanna
down, a little
just-
chat.
Okay.
Sure.
Grab the chairs. I go there. All right, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, we can chat.
That was beautiful.
I
Thank
love
you
the
so much.
Oh, thank you.
That was good. That went well.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll
Yeah.
speak up for the.
Yeah. Actually, I can use my little mic. I
Yeah.
can take it off my
Really? I'll just turn mine off.
So, well, I'm
Here.
just sitting right underneath
Yeah,
the main
I think
pier.
you'll be picked up.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
here, I'll turn this back on.
I have this one, so you can use it. Maybe you two can use it.
Sure.
I can plug
I'll,
back in. Let me just-
I'll project.
Okay,
well.
you're a great projector. So here we go. Okay, so I have mine,
There we go,
and I have
perfect.
this one. You can use this one too if you want.
And I've got the main pier. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for playing us. You know, beautiful music, and I think a good sort of sum up of your week here.
I think so, yeah. I think I was grateful. This was originally Liz's sort of week, and I'm grateful to be invited. And then actually, I didn't even know that the program
You didn't.
was running until Liz shared that with me, and so I think it's a fantastic resource. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I have too much
Take a
reverb.
It sounds good. I like the
Sounds
reverb.
good, but-
That's what I like about having, my buttons here. I can turn stuff on and off.
Yeah, that's better.
fairly
That's
easily.
better.
Okay, here you go.
So it's
You still have reverb and
It's
delay.
okay.
It's okay.
that's okay. I'll just
It's
talk.
in the spirit of the occasion.
Yes, it is electronic. So I don't know if you can hear me, but I feel like she and I are on very parallel tracks. And I told her, wow, this
I think
is,
you're
last
like-
week I told you this is really weird.
I think
because
you're like creative sisters.
I think
I
so.
think so. Yeah, I
We
agree.
have
That's
very
good.
similar backgrounds. She went to U of T, I went to Western. We were kind of like in performance, and then we were gigging. She was gigging in Toronto, and I was gigging in Vermont. And and then we just felt like that wasn't for me. It felt like it wasn't quite enough, and I just needed some way to express myself. My father told me when I was younger, don't be just a music box.
Mm.
And being a music box to me is like you see the composer and you're trying to follow what's on the page, but maybe that's not quite the music. And I got inspired by indie musicians. I got inspired by non-classical musicians
Yeah.
who are just going out and improvising and and showing things that are not in final form. And so
Well, and from the composer's perspective, we put those dots on the page,
yeah,
and and we do our utmost to fulfill all of our responsibility. We add the dynamics, the phrasing, performance directions, but until you come along and breathe life, they're just into those dots. They're just dots,
Yeah.
and so it's the completion of the process
Yeah.
that we need.
it's always a co-composition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking like I have lots of things, but you know what? I really want to collaborate with somebody, and I admired her for years. Like
Aw.
I ever since she was fundraising for your first Blue in the Wild, and I'm seeing the videos you're doing, and then I met her actually here in the CMC when I did my album release back in January of 23 of David Yayer's music, and it was so cool to meet you. We're just like staring at each other like, oh my, I'm so glad to meet you, and so I feel like she would be the perfect collaborator, and she is, because she's keeping me. You're learning so much. You're keeping me straight, and
We should just mention you mentioned your CD.
Yes.
You're recording. This last piece we played, the original viola version of
Yeah.
that piece,
Yeah.
is part of that album.
But I feel like it's changed, and I
Well,
like,
it's
to be
totally
honest, I
changed.
think I really like the flute version, and it's more. I like the interplay, and
Yeah.
I like the combination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
we
too.
record
I
that.
really. Yeah, that'd be fun. We could record that. Like, why
Okay,
not?
okay.
And I think it was actually the act of going through recording, and I did put the
Yes.
blame squarely on Betsy Rom. Shout out to Betsy for saying, getting me on that path. It's like, well, I'll write you a piece if you get a grant, and just go record something. you know, and that kind of was the first step of this journey of finding actually a new voice, and that I had my own, not just as an orchestral, you know, interpreter or, you know, interpreter of music that exists. It took me a while to find my footing that I wanted to create. I wanted to be an impetus for new pieces from other composers. I think at that point I still didn't think of writing it myself. That's why that's the next step for this one is like, well, what does that feel like? It's like that also as soon as something feels like, oh, you know, a little scary and whatever, that always feels like the right place to lean into, because there's something to learn and to grow with that. So yeah, it was really just the start of the journey of recording, and it didn't even occur to me over the many decades of my life that this is something I could do. And then that's led to, again, I was inspired by indie people too, because I'm on a factor jury, and I get to hear all kinds of different things, and then I'm learning about the music industry and seeing people improvise and writing their own music, and then really a way to make money, which is also, you know, I need to survive. It's like, well, you can sync license. Well, I can't sync license music that doesn't belong to me. Okay, so what does that look like if I write my own music or do my own soundscape? So now I'm learning how to use a DAW and all that. It feels like a lot, but you know, there's so many more possibilities now with the technology that we have.
It's a rich experience.
Oh my God.
That's something that came up a couple of times this week, of the idea of like an expanded performance practice from you two have come from a very classical background, and you both sort of independently and now together come up with this new these new things that you're adding to your practice. You know, the technology, the DAWs, the loopers, the microphones,
and collaborative practice.
And a collaborative practice, and bringing creativity into the practice. See if you talk about, I don't know, maybe like it feels very 21st century to me. Does this seem like something that for you too is like a really necessary direction?
I like to answer that. I am teaching lessons. I'm also a violin viola teacher in Montpelier, Vermont. I'm a dual citizen, but I live in the States. And I have been heavily involved in an organization called Music Comp, where there's young performers from grades 3 through 12, and they're mentored with a composer. They're paired with a composer, and they work on a piece from scratch, like from 4 measures minimum to a performance. And I was also inspired by that, and I'm just thinking like, okay, we have that, but why don't we have that for young performers? And now they're starting to go into electronic music. You know, they're going to be working with Ableton and DAWs and experimental music, which is going to be fantastic. But I'm thinking about, we gotta get young performers doing this, getting performers to have fun with this, because there's so many cool pieces. And I was inspired by one of my influences, who's not Canadian, Jessica Meyer, who was a performer. She decided that she was a composer, but she gave that up, and then, and seeing her path, being, starting from looper pedal to composition to full orchestra to band, to chorus, and art song, it was very inspiring to me. And so going back to my violin lessons, with my students, I encourage them to improvise. I have one little 7-year-old, and she plays improvisations. I record it, I turn it into MIDI, and then I turn it to notes, and I give it back to her, and she critiques it. and she makes a performance, and she has about 7 songs. They have 7 songs, so
it's part of your current pedagogy. It's part of my
current pedagogy that you should improvise. I have brought in the DAW, I brought in for backing tracks. I have a student that loves to play anime music and video game music, and that is a lot of fun. Like, that world I'm just delving into it. It's a lot of fun, and that is part of the 21st century.
The music, the message being, you can continue to enrich the music.
Yes. It's not just this, this art form, which is like from 50 years. We have to create music. We have to perform it. We have to not only perform it once. A lot of energy is put into the first performance. We have to put energy into the second, third, fourth, and that's
for all composers, not just our own work, but all the new composers.
Like, I'm thinking of like the tune La Folia, like the Folia, which was kind of like the hit tune of the 17th and 18th century, and many composers, Corelli, Vivaldi, Gemini, they took that, and they did quotations from that into creating their own music. They took that nugget, so they were inspiring each other, and I think we need more of that in the scene.
Do you know what?
The
It's actually
collaboration.
happening quite a bit, but not in the classical scene.
Not in the classical
Right?
scene, but
And
in the
that's
scene.
where, yes, and so that's where, like, yes, I feel like it's 21st century for this genre,
Yeah.
but there's people who've been doing this
Yeah.
for, such a long time. So I actually look to the different genres
Yeah.
for inspiration for that, and what can we do with these pieces, not just the performance
Yeah.
aspect, but also the business side. That's a big thing for me as well, is learning from the music business and how do we make it sustainable, because our genre, classical and jazz, don't really do a lot of business. We could use some more work on that on smaller independent levels.
And I also like, with musicians are like, you're always, the work evolves. Like there's a indie performer that I love, Kishi Bashi, and he uses electronic, violin effects using, the pedals, I think that pedal, and just going on to write symphonic music and write music for film. But he collaborates with a banjo player, and it's like the funnest show ever. And the songs always change. He's always trying to do it differently, and I like to see a little bit of that as well, where the piece can evolve. And when I'm kind of a newbie and composing written works, but I'm hoping that in my works I can have so it's free enough that you can go your own path. It's not aleatoric, but you're going your own path and with phrasing and and maybe improvisation into the thing. So that's and
Yeah, could I add, there's another dimension that this residency invites and makes possible. On our first day, when we were just getting the thing organized, setting up the gear, I had the idea to invite an advanced music technologist, Tim Roth, who I'd been working with in other projects, but I was thinking, here's a perfect crucible for him to come and reflect and add into, and to sort of just stir that crucible a little bit. He came in here, and we'd only met for about an hour, but the ideas that spawned from that conversation are going to go on for years, I suspect. Not to mention having made the connection to Tim and an opportunity to grow those concepts. So this is another offshoot of your concept of the residency.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big. It was. A lot of my vision for this space in general. I mean, and this residency in particular is to build up this community that's here. We talked a little bit yesterday about having a sort of like in and out.
An open door.
An open door, right?
Yeah.
Where people can come in. There's people playing. There's people studying. There's people having a coffee. Maybe they're meeting. Like there's so much that can be done with space, and unfortunately, in the world that we're in, space is at such a premium that just like space where you can just hang out and like and talk and have this exchange of ideas, I think is something really needed.
Especially once you leave the scholastic environment, right? I mean, like if you get that all the way through PhD, so it's quite a long time. But then once you leave that, or if you don't go through that path, then you do end up being isolated fairly quickly and profoundly. You want to go out and meet people and do stuff, but Liz and I are both parents, and so that makes it that's an extra layer of not being able to network quite as much. At least
Grandparents.
Right, exactly. You become the babysitters, right? And so there's some limitations in that, and also just the realities of trying to go out and work, and like you only meet people when you've got a freelance gig and that kind of thing, and so it does become more and more isolating. And so this kind of collaboration is fantastic, and just the idea of, hey, I'm feeling kind of like I need a musical sort of chat with somebody, to be able to come here, which isn't very far in the heart of Toronto, and hopefully someone will be here to chat to. It's like, I have an idea, can I try something? I think that kind of space is something that the professionals need, because we are in need of that kind of collaborative, creative space.
And this place feels like an anchor. This is an anchor. This is a way. This is like I went to the Royal after Western. I went to the Royal Conservatory. Toronto's always been a big part. This has been always a big part. Growing up, always playing a Canadian piece for the RCM exams, and and just having that philosophy that new music, you have to do new music all the time. And so to be here and to be able to create this has been just very much an experience of a lifetime for me. So I'm extremely grateful. Thank you.
One other thing, I mean, it ties a little bit to what you just said. One other thing we were talking about is the capacity for doing a sort of career shift, and maybe a soft career shift, not like you're not abandoning your previous practice, but you're just enriching.
Augmenting.
It's a layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that you two were able to like have this dedicated time to just, because there's only so far you can go by yourself, right? I've found this with myself, learning a new instrument and all of that stuff.
Especially as older women, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in our 20s. We've got some responsibilities, and there's not a lot of opportunities that are open, even in like the granting situation or residencies elsewhere. We can't really leave our homes for a long time. You know, we have responsibilities, and that makes it really difficult to explore those things. And you know, there's a little bit of intimidation too, just like finding our voice and being emerging at our stage. It's a difficult. It's a challenge.
And also
mentally.
Yeah, and also the culture is like, the young, they want to, because you get, again, she was talking about how you get a lot of support as a student, and then it does end up, it's like that cliff, and you drop off, and then, what do you have to do? You have to make a living, but also, what do you do creatively? And I think, and people, people put their time into other people's projects, but I think for creative fulfillment, you have to have a project of your own.
Yeah.
You have to have a project of your own.
And you have to continue
And it's like
to
that beacon.
innovate.
It's that beacon and always
You have to
learning.
innovate.
I also think, I mean, as a performer, as a collaborator, it makes you a better version of those two things when you have your own creative practice.
Yes.
I strongly believe that.
And did you find when you were in school that wasn't really part of the curriculum? It could have been like there was on the outskirts, there were the composers and some innovators and that kind of thing. And I know that when I was doing my recitals in undergrad, I always had a new piece. I had a composer write a piece for me. So I was always kind of in the mind of that, but I never stepped into creating my own work necessarily. And I don't know, I'm sure it's different now. I was in the Jurassic, like when I was studying, but
I don't know.
but I think encouraging that inner creativity all the time. I found it in arts, in other art forms, but in my chosen main art form, it wasn't something that I don't know. Like, I now have confidence that I want to do that now. I mean, but it was just interesting. I don't know if it's the training or what. Yeah.
For me, I feel like I've just developed a better workflow. Like I feel much clearer what I need to do to work, to create, to, in this particular part of my music making. Mm-hmm. So that's been very powerful for me. That's a lot of tools. I have a lot of tools now.
There's more efficiency because we spent so many years and so many hours being efficient as acoustic instrumentalists. We know what to do. It's second nature. So it's making this new process also second nature and efficient, I think. And that's what we're doing. That's what this being in this space is allowing us, I think. Yeah. Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, thank you too for for doing it, taking me up on it. I hope it's a snowball effect, and that the more people do it, the more people know about it, the more people do it, right? And so I'm glad we recorded everything, and we'll all have clips to share. And
thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, David, and thank you, Liz.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.
For being a part
watching
of it.
our process and our showcase.
Yeah.
Have a great day. This September 12th, 2024.